Welcome to another episode of the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce and Zach Hewlett are back here again. And today we're joined by Matt Fischer. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Where are you calling from?
From Richmond, Utah. So right up on the Idaho border, up in Cache Valley.
And repping Cache Valley as well. So
Yeah.
very good. All right. Well,
you're not too far from King. You guys get together?
Not as much as we should, but I run into him every once in a while.
Okay.
You know, we make the plans. Like I'll see him, like, oh, I'm gonna call you and let's go to dinner, and it never happens. So this last time I put it on his wife. I'm like, you need to contact my wife and we'll make this happen. It still didn't happen.
I love it. That's cool. You guys are close though. That's really fun. Sorry, I interrupted, Jack. Carry on.
It's all right. All right, Matt. We start off with, leading up to the mission, any preparation or how you got your call, how you end up in Scotland.
So just pretty standard, I think, Utah thing. I grew up with, 3 brothers, 2 of them older than me, 1 younger, and my 2 older brothers both served missions. So, it's just what you do. After watching them serve and the experiences that they had, it was just like a no-brainer to go do it. And so put my papers in. I graduated high school, worked for a year, and because I was younger, my birthday's in June, so I graduated at 17, 18, and had a whole year to wait. So I just worked and put my papers in, and call came, and you invite everybody over to your house, and opened it up, and it was Scotland. Unlike everybody else, you pronounce it wrong, and
yeah,
but it's pretty cool. I got my call, and I kind of told everybody, and I think it's Sister Vreen's cousin lived just up the street from me, so she called Sister Vreen's, and I actually talked to Sister Vreen's, I don't know, a week or 2 later, because she called her, and so I got to talk to her a little bit and tried to get some inside information. She didn't really give me anything good, but just told me, she's excited to have us there in Scotland, and so
that's pretty cool.
So that was summer 2004.
That would have been 2004. So I don't know, April.
Okay, cool. All right, so skipping over, got back 2006. What have you been up to? Last couple decades.
I got back 2006, went to school I worked for about a year or so, and went to school and kind of just screwed around at school. I took racquetball and took basketball and all the stupid classes you do in college, and kind of slowly got into it, and just worked and met my wife, and she was dating a friend of mine, and so we were just kind of good friends, and he went on a mission, and we were just good friends. She pushed me to go to school, and so I took school a little bit more seriously and started doing some stuff, and she actually enrolled me at Utah State. Like, she filled out my application, did it all for me, because I wasn't going to do it, let's be honest. I was happy and living at home and going to the community college, and and so she was a big driving force that got me to come up to school up to Utah State. So
wow,
that's awesome.
Fun side note: while I was up here at school, I lived with Brandon King and Cameron McDonald up here for a year.
There you go.
And
I love it.
That was some good fun. We've probably gotten in more trouble than not, but it was good fun. We lived in a pretty nice apartment. This is just a funny story. We lived in a nice apartment, and we didn't have any furniture. I mean, my wife makes fun of us all the time. You come in our kitchen, and there was a couch in there, but no kitchen table. And we had this massive, 65-inch TV with big old speakers and an Xbox in the living room with, a church pew couch we bought at the DI. And you go up to Brandon's room, we paper, rock, scissors, the master bedroom, and Brandon won, and he didn't have any furniture. So he had a blanket, a pillow laying on the floor in this massive, massive bedroom. And, Cameron, in his room, he went and bought a table from the DI. So he had this big table in there to do his homework and his school study on. But then he bought an air mattress, and he slept on an air mattress for a year.
Oh my gosh.
And then I just had like a futon and a nightstand in my room, and that's all I had. Like, we had this nice apartment, and we didn't have any furniture. Total like guy's apartment. It was ridiculous. But
That's pretty good.
Oh man, that's so funny.
But
I reconnected with Cameron recently, and he just moved back to Logan.
yeah, I follow his wife on Instagram and posting all kinds of pictures, and so that's
so
good. We'll
cool.
have to get in touch with him one day and maybe go. Maybe I'll actually follow up and go with Brandon and Cameron to dinner. Probably
There you
not.
go.
There you go. And
Cameron, if
and
you're
then
listening to this, you better get your wife to do it, because I'm probably not going to do it. So because I moved up to Utah State, my wife and I, we just got closer, and from then on, we got married in 2009, and lived in Salt Lake for a few years, bounced around in a couple apartments, and my wife was actually diagnosed with MS. I think it was in fall, just the whole left side. I think the left side of her body started going numb, and she just doctors and a little bit of a scare, and that's what it ended up being. And so everybody treated her different at her job, and she didn't really like that. And so we just dropped everything. I quit my job, she quit her job, and we moved up to Cache Valley for a new start. And been up here ever since. So,
wow, what a story! Goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty. We look back on it, it's pretty amazing. Like, we just drove up here and looked at apartments one day, and all we found was garbage. And so we were like on our way out of Logan, and I'm like, I'm gonna look one more time, and one popped up, and we drove right over there, and they had just listed it, and so we're like, we'll take it. And then we were up here really soon after that. But,
amazing. That's really cool.
What have you been doing for work?
So work, I built homes, worked for a small general contractor up here. So when we moved up here, she got a job teaching, and I got a job with a small general contractor, and did that for a long time. Built our first house, my wife and I, kind of over Christmas break and at nights and weekends, and we didn't have a life for like a year and a half. But
wow,
that's cool.
We kind of did most of it by ourselves, and it was good. But we're now in our second house. We built another house here in Richmond, and I don't think we're going anywhere because the market sucks, as you guys know.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which side of the mountain range you're on.
Oh yeah, it sucks. Fun. We've got 2 kids. We got an 8-year-old boy, sharp as a tack, just like my wife, and a 4-year-old daughter who is as mischievous as hell, just like me. She'll get into anything, and she's spicy, and she lets you know it.
Oh man, that's awesome. Very fun.
Great.
And I guess now, I quit framing. I'm not framing anymore. I drive a 10-wheel oil truck, a fuel truck. There's a small oil company up here in Lewiston, based out of Lewiston. And I drive around with like 4,500 gallons of fuel around town, and it's like a big old bomb. I never thought about it till I went and delivered fuel to a farmer one day, and he was like, "Hey, I really like you, so don't melt." And I'm like, "Don't melt? Like, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Dude, if anything to happen, you're not going to die. Like, you will melt." Oh, shoot, you're right. I'm probably toast if anything was to happen. So
That's a fine howdy do.
Yeah, it's a cheerful thought. Thank you.
So now I think about that all the time when I get in the truck. Like, oh, I got to not melt today.
Good goal. Good goal.
Are you still a season ticket holder at Utah State?
Oh, yeah.
What's
12 years, 13 years or something like that in a row.
That was the last time I saw Matt in person. He shows up to pick a seat when we did reserve seats in that south end zone. And I was like, Matt? Zach? it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Feels like a lifetime ago, though.
Still love football. Just look forward to this time of year. College football, NFL, everything. So fall is the perfect time.
Very cool.
All right. Well, take us back now to Scotland. Start in the MTC, and we'll just work through companions, areas, however you want to roll with it.
Okay. Let's see. I guess we'll start in the MTC. Pretty standard, like everybody else. Go to Preston. Pretty excited about it. We had a pretty big group. I don't remember how many were in there, but there were a lot of us and a lot of other missionaries going to other missions as well. So it was one of the bigger groups at the time that had come through there. And so I just remember it being a lot of fun. I hurt my ankle in the MTC playing volleyball. I think I came down on maybe Rasmussen's foot and tore a bunch of things in my ankle. And the MTC doctor actually suggested that he's like, I'll give you the choice, but you should probably go home and get this fixed. And there's no way I was going home. So I'm like, I'll be fine. Like, give me a week, I'll be fine again. And so I moped around the MTC the rest of my time, hobbling around on crutches, and my foot looking like an elephant foot, just huge and swollen and bruised. And, it was rough, but rough way to start. But my companion in the MTC was an Elder Adler. He was from Germany, and it was something else. I'm a little bit of a character, and he was pretty serious, and we got along, but there's a lot of times he would look at me like, Elder, you gotta be quiet. Elder, we can't do that. I'm like, shut up, we're good. But
funny.
So yeah, MTC was good. And then like I said, I hurt my foot, and that was a rough deal. I went into the mission with an air cast and could barely put a lot of weight on it, and that probably troubled me for the first 6 to 8 months of my mission. Just had problems with it.
Man.
And because of that, actually, when I came home, I had to have surgery and have it fixed. And the doctor said when he put me down, he could take my ankle and just bend all the way around my foot and actually touch the top of my foot with my heel. He's like, I don't know how you were walking. There was nothing holding your foot together.
Whoa.
My goodness.
It's pretty messed up.
Oh. No wonder the doctor at the MTC said what they said.
Yeah, he gave me the choice, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going. Like, are you kidding me? So
did you have like pain medicine and stuff to keep you going? Like, how did you do that? That's crazy.
Ibuprofen and Tylenol. I went through it like crazy.
All right.
I just iced and elevated and did my best to take care of it. But you know what? You're on your feet all day long.
Yeah.
Like I wore slippers for like the first 6 months of my mission because I couldn't fit my foot in a pair of shoes.
Wow.
So like I proselyted in slippers, and I went and bought some black slippers with a sole, and but so got up to Scotland, and I just remember, honestly, not a lot to start my mission. I remember the missionaries taking us around and showing us the sights and feeding us a bunch of bull crap that I didn't realize was bull crap at the time, like everybody else has said, and it was great. I ate it up, I'm sure. But my first area was in Pollock, and my trainer was Elder Webb. Stephen Webb from Arizona, I think.
Stephen, yeah.
Yeah.
And we had some good laughs. He was pretty fun. This is a funny story. When I first it was like probably the first week, and I was pretty timid. I didn't know what I was doing, and so he was pretty good about letting me slowly get into things. And we're out chatting. He's like, "This is your door. I'm not going to say a word. This is all you. So don't look for me to rescue you. I'm like, all right, I got this. And I go up there, and you've got your spiel, like, oh, I'm so and so, and blah blah blah. And I knock on the door, and to this day, I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure it was a lady. And I knocked on the door, and it opens the door, and I just froze, and I just looked at her, just stared at her, because I couldn't, I think my approach is good afternoon, ma'am, or good after, whatever, or sir, or whatever, and I couldn't decide what it was, so I just blinked. And I looked at Elder Webb, and he looked at me and just smiled and didn't say a word. And I looked back at the lady, and she said something to me, and I didn't understand a thing she said. And and I just looked at her, and I looked at Webb again, and he just looked at me, and she shut the door, and we walked away. Like, not a word was said. And we walk out and across the gate, and he's like, "You couldn't tell if that was a man or a woman, could you?" I was like, "Dude, I have no idea." And he's like, "I think it was a woman."
Oh my god!
I mean, it was bad. It was so funny though. Like, I still laugh about that. But
Oh, it's golden. Oh man.
I was there just 6 weeks. And I'm sure I was, it was pretty hard on Elder Webb, but he wanted to go, and I just couldn't with my ankle. We would do 2 or 3 hours at a time, and we'd come back, and I'd put it up and ice it, and try to go visit a member or go do something but we were walking and catching buses, and it was hard. I mean, I really struggled that first little while because of not being able to work, not really get into it, because I just couldn't.
Wow.
But, we were another funny story. Elder Webb, I love that guy. He was fun, but he never went to the bathroom, and I noticed that like a week or two in. I'm like, dude, like, it's healthy. Like, it is healthy to poop like once a day at least. And it would be like once every like 4 days. I'm like, you are not healthy. Like, this is a problem. And I remember we were running back to the flat, and I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and so we're in a hurry, and I'm hobbling, because I can't do anything. And I bust into the bathroom, and there's no toilet paper anywhere. And I'm like, how is this possible? You don't use the bathroom, so where did the toilet paper go? Like, what is going on? So I'm frantically searching everything we got in the house. There's no napkins, there's no paper towels. I'm going through my suitcase, checking socks and clothes and everything. And I found something, went to the bathroom, and I came out, and I was pissed. And I'm like, where's the toilet paper? I know you didn't go to the bathroom. And he's like, oh, I used it to clean the sink and clean the toilet and all this stuff. I was mad. I was pissed. And I'm like, what are you using toilet paper to clean things for? And he's like, oh, it was handy. But I was so mad. Oh. But
That's not what toilet paper's for.
No, he was great. I loved Elder Webb. But I wish we could have spent more time. But like I said, I was only there 6 weeks. I don't remember a lot about the ward, just being new, and don't remember a ton about the area. Just remember they played football all the time, and I had to sit on the grass and watch, and because I couldn't do anything, and it was rough.
Yeah, that would be.
From there, I went up to Inverness and was with Elder Vertigan. And at the time, Elder Vertigan and I didn't get along. Actually, liked the guy, and it was just, I think, a case of personalities just didn't match up. I'm pretty good at feeling people out and kind of filling out situations, and I can get along with pretty much anybody. And I remember with him, I couldn't figure him out. Weeks went by, and I just didn't know, couldn't figure out his personality, couldn't figure out if I could push his buttons or harass him or what to do. And that probably added a lot to it. I was, a new missionary who thought I knew exactly what a missionary was supposed to do. And I think he was pretty set in his ways. And I remember him liking to do things in certain ways, and he thought that was the best way to do it. And I'm pretty bullheaded, so I'm like, no, that's not the best way to do it. We're going to do it my way. And so we butted heads a lot, but he, I can credit him something on my mission. And now in life, we had this big blowout. I mean, I think we were going up the stairs into the flat, and we were just screaming at each other, and we were going at it. And he was mad about something, and I was like, what do you want from me, dude? Like, what do you want? Like, I'm trying my best to be the missionary that you need me to be, and I can't make you happy. And he looked at me just dead in the eye, and he's like, Elder Fischer, I don't need you to be the missionary, or don't be the missionary that I need. He's like, be the missionary the Lord needs you to be. Like, be who you are. Like, the Lord called you. He didn't call just a missionary. Like, your personality, your traits, who you are, that's who the Lord needs in Inverness. And, that really, I was pissed. I'm like, shut up. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, And then after I thought about it, like, I'm like, dude, you're right. And I think after that first 6 weeks, I kind of changed my attitude a little bit. I think we got along a lot better. It was still rough, and I still think it was personality-wise, but I was more myself. And I think that's when I tried to be more who I was as a person and a missionary than just try to be like one of those straightforward white handbook, follow every rule missionaries, which is probably a good and a bad thing. I mean, I walk the line in everything I do, and it's a pretty thin line. And sometimes I trip and fall way over the line. Sometimes I'm just how I am. It's the person I am, and I just kind of live life to the fullest. And I tried to do. Once I started doing that as a missionary, I was a lot more happier, and things were a lot better. So that was something that Kevin kind of drilled home, and I use it today in my same life. Like, I'm very much who I am, and I don't care if anybody likes it or not. And the Lord uses me and my personality in ways that He needs me to do, and it's great. So, but that was fun.
Good.
We had a lot of fun. We're in a 4-man flat. I was up there for I think 3 months, and we're with Elder Asariadu, Elder Cook, Elder Leet was there I think for 6 weeks. But we had a lot of fun. I mean, have either of you been in Inverness or served in Inverness?
I've been there.
But that flat was like the central hub. So like any district meeting, any zone conference, everybody came in, and we had a lot of fun. There were some good times had by all.
Gosh.
I remember putting all the mattresses down on the floor and having boxing matches in the evenings with all the elders. And, Elder Cook and I one year for Halloween, I had this stupid idea. Everyone was dressing up for Halloween. And I'm like, dude, let's be lamps for Halloween. And he looks at me. He's like, lamps? Like, are you serious? So like we made like these lamp costumes and these giant lamp shades on our heads. And we went to like the ward party on Halloween as these giant lamps. It was absolutely ridiculous. I've got a picture somewhere, and they were awesome. They worked. I mean, we had headlights duct taped to our head, and like
That's amazing.
It was legit. But what idiot thinks to be a lamp for Halloween? Yeah, this idiot right here. I mean,
That's funny. Oh, gosh.
yeah, it was fun. I mean, a lot of Pine Uno nights. A lot of we'd play all kinds of games at night and screw around. But great ward. I loved Inverness. The ward there was amazing. Really small. The people there, like, we used to go visit Birdie Bubbles all the time, Bert, and he was a legend. He was always good fun, and we spent a lot of time like the Williams, and they would bring a lot of friends and investigators over, and we did a lot of teaching there. We had bikes. President got us bikes, which was a terrible idea with my ankle, because I still rode that thing like it was. I thought it was a motorcycle, and would try to jump it off every stupid thing. And
gosh,
the bike was always broken because I broke it riding down something stupid, or and my ankle would be feeling good, and I'd jump off a stair and hurt my ankle again. And bikes were a bad idea. Missions should never have bikes. Inverness is great. So I was there, 3 months. And then from there, I moved on to Glenrothes. And I was with Elder Fish. The president probably thought he was really funny putting the two of us together.
I remember he did think it was funny.
Fisher. I'm sure. Yeah, he used to always tell us, like, oh, how's my fishers of men? You'd go to interviews, and that joke, he thought he was the funniest guy in the world, and he'd slap you on the shoulder with his big head, and it was good fun there. But I think I really grew as a missionary there in Glenrothes, because Fish and I were both out like 4.5 months, I think. And we didn't really have anybody else to rely on. And so we just kind of had to figure things out ourselves and really go for it. So that was great. Fish taught me a lot about quiet dignity. We had a lot of fun, but he'd always look at me and like, Elder, tone it down a little bit. But, that flat, what a dive. Jack, you know that, right?
Yep.
Oh, I used to get. I froze. I froze my. I was there over Christmas, and I froze my butt off. Like I'd come down right after my duvet and lay on the ground in front of the fire, and I ran
was
that
there-
fire 24/7.
I was there the next Christmas, and we just abandoned the upstairs because it was so cold.
Yeah.
Just moved our
I got
mattresses down.
I got a call one morning from Elder Lemon, and he calls me, and I'm like, Fischer. I'm like, oh, Elder Lemon, how are you? He's like, I'm doing good. He's like, congratulations. I'm like, oh, geez, all right. Thanks for what? And he's like, you have the highest gas bill in the mission. And it's like, oh. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I run my gas fireplace like 8 hours a day. I'm freezing up. So he chastised me a little bit, and
That's so good.
I still froze. I mean, there were holes in the house, and like you'd see moisture coming in through the holes, and you'd go outside and you'd see the light like shining through the outside of the house, and it was bad. Did they ever fix the shower head, Jack, when you were there?
No.
I was there for 7.5 months, and all we had was a stupid hose that spit water at your face.
Oh my gosh. 7.5 months.
The shower never, the toilet like never flushed. Like you'd have to flush it 5 times to get anything to even work, and it was bad news.
I was the last one in that apartment. After that, like my last assignment in the mission was to find a new apartment for the next guys.
Yeah, President Reams was asking me about it, and I was like, President, we got to get something new. Like it's bad. And I mean, missionaries didn't help that out. Like we probably could have fixed things, and I ran out of dish soap. I ran out of laundry detergent, so I used a little bit of dish soap in the washing machine the one day, and we came back from chapping in the huge kitchen. It was full of bubbles, like just full of bubbles, because I used dish soap instead of laundry detergent.
Oh my god!
Fish and I had a lot of fun. We had quite a bit of success there. I remember teaching a lot of people, and he was pretty good at GQ and door approaches, and so I learned a lot from him. But we were always seemed to be teaching people. We had some member referrals that turned into baptisms with Daniel. I gotta think of his last name. Daniel Glipsy, I think, is what his name was, and he was a member referral. And then Katie Wallace as well. And I think Jack knows, but I think after they were both baptized, they kind of got together and had a kid and went kind of crazy, which is too bad.
Yeah.
And then I was with Fish for 4.5 months. And by the end, I think we were both just ready to move on. I just think we're both hit that point and we're done. And then I got Elder Noble and old Charles in Charge, Van de Nobelator. Freaking, I love that guy. He's the most loving person you could ever meet. Like, dude, you can't call a guy a sweetheart, but dude, Charles was a sweetheart, man.
Still is.
Yeah,
still is. Not was, still is. Like, you want some pure Christ-like love, like that guy's full of it. And that opened a lot of doors, opened up a lot of members to us where they shared friends and came and did teaches with us. And a lot of that had to do with Elder Noble, because he was amazing. Powerhouse. I loved Elder Noble. That was some really fun. I was with him for 3 months, and we had a lot of fun. Just, I listened to his podcast, and just when he talked about everything, just made me smile. Like, everything about him made you smile.
Yes.
I loved him. And we, in Glenrothes, we shared the word with Kirkcaldy. And boy, did we spend a lot of time with those guys. We had some fun times, water balloons, and they had a really nice flat. So we spent a lot of time over there.
Had a shower that worked.
I did shower at their apartment a few times because it was way nicer than ours. It was previously a sister apartment, so it was super freaking nice. And then ours was super freaking ghetto. I know they were jealous of our shower.
Oh man, you can't go beyond Glenrothes without mentioning district meeting hacky sack too.
Oh, that was some good fun. I still kick around a hacky every now and then, but
yeah,
that followed around the whole mission, and it was alright. I just remember any spare moment we got, we were playing hacky.
it
We
was
had some
just
pretty serious.
it was just so perfect to go from like high spiritual moments to like high competitive athletics within a short period of time. It was just a way to burn off a little bit on a Monday, and it was really nice. I always enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
You're right. Going from that high spiritual high to I want to kill you and chuck this hacky at your face as hard as you can.
I mean, you saw the competitive streak of everybody in our district so quickly, and there were some that were really into it. Like I remember David Pilkington was one of those where you were just like, man, you're such a nice and sweet guy, and he was ready to wallop somebody with a hacky if he got an opportunity.
Yes, it's like Killer Hacky brought out that viciousness in everybody.
That's it, exactly.
But no, we had some fun district activities, and that was good fun.
It was. Agreed.
But yeah, and great ward. I love the ward in Glenrothes and in Kirkcaldy. You know, Brother Watt. We went up there and fished a few times in his fishery and did some service up there. He had some four-wheelers. He let me ride his four-wheelers around. I've got some pictures of me jumping this like 125 Honda four-wheeler around. It was awesome. You know, I'm in my suit and I'm jumping as high as I can, and it was good fun. He was always down to let us have a little fun, but really never let us cross the line too much.
I love it. That's cool.
Trying to think of anything else about there. I mean, we just had a lot of fun. You know, I was always around other missionaries. The president must have known that I was very social. I loved to be around, you know, the missionaries and feel that brotherhood. And so I seemed like I was always in an area where there was other missionaries in the house or in the same ward or close to the area that we could always do things with. So, you know, I remember Fish and we used to make competitions chapping, and we had some point system where we had words, and if you fit that word into a discussion, you got a point. And the loser always had to buy shakes at the end of the day, and I got to ate 1,000 McDonald's shakes. You know, we'd drive by and get shakes all the time. We lived on the McDonald's shakes. But had a car there. I was pretty lucky. We had a car. Oh, this is a funny story. So I had a car most of my mission, like 18, 20 months of my mission. But President told me, because our car was garbage, it was always breaking. And Jack, did they get a new car? Do you remember if they had, or was it that same stupid, really old?
They just took it away because Noble didn't have his license.
So, well, President told me he was going to take the car away from us. And the starter broke. And he's like, when you get that starter fixed, I want you to drive it down to the zone leader's place, and they're going to take your car. And I'm like, freaking heck. So Noble and I drove around for like 3 weeks without fixing the starter. And he pushed the car every morning down the street, and I popped the clutch, and away we would go. And we always parked on a hill so we could run it down the hill and pop the clutch and go. And President finally called me. He's like, Elders, you need to take the car when you get it fixed. And I'm like, President, we haven't fixed it yet. And he's like, well, are you driving? I'm like, oh, yeah, we're driving it. But I bet once or twice a day, Noel would get out and push the car, and I'd pop the clutch, and he'd jump in, and away we go. Because if not, we were going to lose the car.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh, that is so good.
But I mean, if my companion's like, hey, Elder Fischer, get out and push the car. I'm like, no, like, you get out and push the car. But he was more than willing. He's like, I'll push it. And it was probably part of his exercise routine, man. That guy, he lost so much weight from just that little time in Glenrothes. Like, he dropped quick. But
yeah,
so
that's true.
That's a funny story. I tell my kids that one and my young men that all the time. because I'm like, I'm not taking this car back. I want to keep it.
That's so
And then,
good.
and then President probably found out that we had a little too much fun in Glenrothes, so he shipped me up to Thurso. And I mean, I was
I'll
up there.
show him.
I was up there forever. Like, I was up there for 7.5 months, and I loved it. Thurso was my jam. Like, the slow pace, just small town feel. I mean, loved it. And once again, had a car up there. And I learned when I was up there that, zone leader, district leader, AP exchanges meant that they wanted to come up to Thurso and tour the whole northern part of Scotland. And so I was like, Elder Fischer, we're coming up for an exchange, and we want to go to Tongue, or we want to go to John O'Groats, or we find some service with a member up on the coast somewhere. So we did a lot of exchanges visiting Scotland up there. It was pretty fun. But
that's cool.
Served up there with Elder Cotton Bettridge, Craig, and man, that guy, he was a riot. He was a dude, man. We had a lot of fun. We worked hard, but we definitely play hard. I think we knocked on every door. I mean, we had this map that was highlighted for every street, and we had talked to every person. I mean, how you have the books and you've got each house and they're all circled, and we'd go drive to a street and hit only 2 houses that didn't answer, and we'd get them and we'd cross it off and go to the next street. And that was rough. Teaching pool up there was hard. We did a lot of service because just wasn't any teaching, but we had a lot of fun. One day, and I'm sure it probably wasn't. I'm sure I didn't get permission. I don't remember if we asked for permission or not. Knowing me, we probably did, just went and did it. But Bettridge and I, we jumped a ferry and went up to the islands with Willis and somebody else for a P day. Did some fishing and some touring up on Orkney with Willis. I'm sure we called it exchanges, and because there was only like one ferry up a day, and so I'm sure we caught the one ferry and spent the night and screwed around on P day and came back. I don't remember how long, but we were up there for at least a day, and it was fun. Willis was a riot, man. I love that guy. He was a dirty dude. We need to get him on there. Willis, if you're listening, we can get your butt on this podcast.
Yeah, George Willis. I've called him out. I've called him out like 24 times so far on this podcast. I send him messages almost on a weekly. I'm like, "You ready to go do the podcast?" No. I'm gonna get you, George. You know I will.
Send me his information. I'll start sending him a text like weekly.
You got it. I'll send you his contact when we're done with this. I guarantee we'll get him on here. We harass him enough.
Yeah, for sure. But I love Thurso. Like, we met in a little school, a little branch. I mean, we'd have 6 or 7 people to church usually. Sometimes it was like 10 or 12 or 15, but little teeny branch. And every week, one of the missionaries spoke. We both would bless the sacrament. Like, we had to teach primary and elders coming and everything. And I loved it. It was always fun. You'd be given a sacrament meeting talk, and somebody would raise their hand in the middle of your talk, and you'd stop and like, "What do you want?" And they'd ask you a question about your talk, and you'd answer it, and then get back on with your talk again. And
yes, oh man,
I loved, like, that's what made Thurso. Just that small town. I was away from everybody, and we just had fun. Loved the people. Did a lot of service. Everybody knew the missionaries up there, so we just served the people. It was great.
That's cool.
Love the little branch that was there. Great people up there. I had a mustache for like a week and a half up there because nobody. I'm a 4-hour ferry ride to Orkney. I'm a 4-hour bus ride down to Inverness. Like, one train went out on a Sunday. Like, no one was going to see me. So yeah, I had a mustache for a little while. It was awesome.
That's amazing. Is it true? You can verify this. Is it true that Craig almost died from a game of Pine Uno?
Yeah, I believe it. We had some pretty serious. This is okay. So this is a pretty funny story. I remember coming down for district meeting, and we first got there, or when I was in Inverness, president wouldn't let the the missionaries from Thurso come down because there's too much travel. But when I was up in Thurso, he thought it was very important that we were there for the instruction and the teaching and district meeting. So we got to come down almost every week. But we couldn't, only one bus went out on like a Sunday, or nothing went out. I don't remember how it worked out, but we had to travel always the night before to make it there on time. And so we played Pine Uno, and I was a cheating sucker. I never lost to Uno because I was a cheating sucker. Like, I've got a small bladder. If I drank a pint of Uno, that I would die. So I cheated all the time. I don't know if anybody knew that.
On the record, I love it.
I was a cheating sucker for Pine Uno. But we were a million glasses in, and people were like standing up, holding themselves, bouncing, like about to pee, and no one wanted to pee. And when one guy let loose, it was just like cockroaches when you turn on the light. Everybody scattered. And like people were outside peeing in the street, like in the bathroom, like everywhere, because nobody could hold it. And I think that was the time. Because it was unreal. I've never seen people drink so much water. And of course I was pretending because I didn't want anybody to catch on that like I was winning and hadn't drank anything yet. Because then they'd get suspicious that I was cheating up the Uno.
Gosh. Oh man.
So yeah, that was probably true.
Yeah, I can't remember who told me the story, but I heard it through the grapevine that Craig was like, I think he said it was like 7 or 8 pints deep, and I was like, I'm amazed he didn't have like kidney problems after that.
It was, and he wasn't the only one. Like, there were a lot. Like, I've never seen people drink so much water in my life. It was crazy.
Oh man.
Yeah, that flat took a beating. I mean, I remember like blowing up the toilets. Like, we broke a toilet seat in that toilet. We sprayed Axe deodorant on the inside and a trail down the front and shut the lid and light that sucker on fire, and boom! the things you did when you got together as missionaries is something else. But yeah, freaking Craig and I, we had some fun. I introduced him to Mountain Dew up there. I would order me a case like every month on the internet and ship it straight to the flat. And
oh gosh.
Just before moves, I had a shipment coming. This is a funny story. I had a shipment coming in, and I didn't want it to go there because I was pretty sure I was moving. I talked to the president, and he was like, "Yeah, Elder, you're going to go." So I shipped it through the mission home so I could get there, and it came open, and I don't remember who the office elder was. I think it was Stanley, maybe. I could be completely wrong. But they called me up and they're like, "Elder Fischer, I've got a suspicious package here for you." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "You know what I'm talking about." They're like, "I'm telling President Les I could have a can." And they totally blackmailed me. Whoever it was, if you remember this, you better own up to it. But I don't remember who the office elder was, but they totally blackmailed me. Took a can, taped it up, and shipped it up to me again.
That's amazing. Oh gosh.
But I was with veterans for 4.5 months, and we had a lot of fun. We worked hard and we did a lot of service, and we definitely put on the miles on the car. And then I had Elder Borders the next 3 weeks or 3 months, and I loved freaking Lyle. He was a champion, and he was one of those that I was a little worried about. Not sure how we would get along, just personality wise, and he was awesome. We had some good fun. I think he was good for me. He calmed me down a little bit. I think I'd probably gotten a little bit wild up in Thurso because I knew that nobody was checking up on me, and he kind of brought me back in a little bit. But I'm pretty sure it was Borders. It could have been with Bettridge. But when Willis came down from Orkney, he had brought 2 fishing poles with him. And one of them was 14 feet long. It was a big coastal fishing pole. And the other was a normal one. And so I had my mom send me a bunch of fishing stuff. And we had knocked into some guys that were fishing guides. And I asked them, we taught them for 2 or 3 weeks. And I just picked their brain about how to fish in the ocean. And so Borders and I started fishing all the time on P-Day. And we would, since we couldn't find anybody, we would drive down the coast and we would knock on doors. You know, you'd knock on a farmhouse and they tell you to get lost, and you get in your car and you drive another mile down the road and knock on the next house. And when we do that, if we passed someone fishing on the coast, we'd get out and fish next to them. And guarantee within 5 minutes, people look at you and they'd be like, "Hey, why are you fishing in a suit over there?" I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you." And we'd teach discussions all the time on the coast fishing. It's great.
Oh man, that's amazing.
I'm pretty sure it was with Boers, but it could have been with Veterange. But
That's excellent.
President found out about that one, and he was not okay with it, but he was okay with it. He's like, as long as you're being productive. He's like, if you're there and they don't ask you any questions, get going, get to work.
Don't
he's like,
cast twice.
If you're teaching, go for it. So it was fun. But
That is cool.
And then from Thurso, I moved down to Livingston, and I trained. And I remember the night the president called me that I was going, and I was terrified. He's like, "Elder Fischer, you're going to train." And I'm like, "President, are you sure?" Like, we've had some pretty candid conversations. Are you sure, President? Like, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Fischer, you're going to be great. Elder Fischer, you're going to be great. You know, this missionary needs you." And I'm like, "I don't think so, President." Like, I was not on board. He kind of had to talk me into it. I was pretty nervous. And I got down there, and I trained Elder Chambers, and he was Phil, aka Phil Michael. I love that guy.
I love that he told the story of how he became Phil, and it made no sense. That was so good.
It really made no sense at all. It was probably like a weekend, and I just looked at him like, "Dude, you look like a Phil." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, are you sure you're not like a Phil?" And he's like, "No," and it stuck. And he was Phil from then on, and it was great. But you know, I was terrified to train. You know how I was. I walked I mean, I worked hard, but I had a lot of fun. I kind of enjoyed my mission, and I was a little bit afraid that I would get him off on the wrong foot. And so President Elder Fischer, you need to work hard. I don't care if you have fun, but you need to work hard just as much as you have fun. And so we did. We worked our butts off, and we saw some success. We had a baptism there while we were there, and we if I remember, we had a lot of teaching. We had a pretty big teaching pool. We did a lot of teaching, but we did a lot of chapping. There was nowhere to GQ. We just knocked doors like crazy in the rain. And I felt like it rained every day there. And it killed me to say, "Let's go knock doors." And he'd look at me, and I'm like, "Yeah, we're going." And he was a terrible driver. Like, I didn't let him drive. I think he drove home from the mission home, and then I drove for like a week and a half because I'm like, "Dude, you're bad. I'm going to die." And President got mad at me, and he's like, "Elder, you need to let him drive. Your license isn't valid." And I'm like, "Oh." And sure enough, like a week later, like he backed into the car, and I'm like, "I told you you're a bad driver." And I even think like he was like, "Elder, you need to get out and back me up." And I'm like, "Shut up, Phil. Like, you can back up a car. Like, it's raining. I'm not getting out of the car." And I should have got out of the car.
Gosh.
But we that area was a 4-man area, and that's where I got to know Brandon and Cameron.
Yep.
And that was a lot of fun. Those guys were awesome. I always thought Cameron was a little bit of a stiff. Not even a little bit. He was a riot, dude. That kid, his sense of humor was amazing. And just him and Brandon just fed off each other. You know Brandon's loud as could be, and Cameron's a little bit more quietly dignified, but still just as funny, and they just fed off each other. It was great. It was hard to be a good trainer with those two around. especially me. But I remember we with the baptism we had, her name was Fiona. I don't remember her last name. King, maybe. But this is a funny story. I remember when she was golden. I mean, I prayed nonstop, like to the Lord, like, Lord, give us something good. Like, get him off on a good start. We need a good investigator. Like, let's get this. We'll do whatever you want. Just give us somebody. And she just fell in our lap and was perfect. And everything we taught, she was like, and she was always feeding us. And when she agreed to be baptized, she was nervous about it, and so she wanted to practice. And so I remember in the living room one night when, I was showing her how to do it, and we started to do it, and I slipped on something and I ate it. And I went tumbling down, rolling as I was trying to teach her, how we were going to do it. And I almost hit my head on the radiator there, and it was so funny.
Oh my gosh.
She's probably like, oh, what am I doing? I think that's when she asked Michael to baptize her, because she saw what I did. She didn't want to get dropped.
Oh, love it.
But we were there for 3 months, and it was awesome. I love teaching with Michael. He that guy had a testimony that just you'd teach, and I'd be teaching, and I'd look at him and I'd just be like, go for it, like, bear testimony. And he probably thought like, oh, he's just having me bear testimony because I don't know what to say. But that guy, when he opened his mouth and bore his testimony, like, people just, spirit came out, people listened. Like, it was amazing. That guy had a pretty sweet testimony, and the Spirit just followed him everywhere he went. So I was trying to encourage him because, like, hey, man, you got to share it. Like, people listen when you talk. People don't listen when I talk. But when you open your mouth, people listen. It was great.
I served around Phil at the end of my mission, and he was excellent. I love Chambers. Such a good dude. Oh, my God.
And I laugh, but I listen to his podcast. I feel really bad that, like, Phil stuck so bad. Like, people are like, your name's Philip, right? But also, I think it's amazing. Like,
it's a perfect story. It's just perfect.
It was seriously, like, just so nonchalant. Like, you look like a Phil. I'm gonna call you Phil. And it caught on. Everybody was like, hey, Phil. And it probably helped that we had 4 missionaries there who caught on to the Phil. And
it's true.
It was great.
It's true. I heard it from McDonald and from King in separate occasions. Yeah, we were there with Phil and Fischer, and I mean, it was just it was perfect though, because he took it on with such grace that it wasn't anybody making fun of him. It was just my dad called me Phil, so I'm Phil. It was so
Phil.
good. It's so good.
He just rolled with it. I mean, he could have been mad about it, or like, don't call me Phil. He didn't care. He took it, and just the type of person I am, I kind of like to push people's buttons, and he just rolled with punches, and he gave it just as good as I gave it, which was great.
Yeah. Oh man.
But then from there, I went on to Motherwell, and I served with Elder Lynch, old Dad Lynch.
Oh man.
And we were there with it was a 4-man area again, because President knew that I loved to hang out with other missionaries. I don't know what he was doing. And especially those missionaries. It was Elder McLeod, old Garrett, and Ren Hardy, man. And Lynch and I and Ren and Garrett, we had a riot. I mean, we worked really hard, but it was rough. We didn't teach a lot, and we knocked a lot of doors and spent a lot of time trying to find people, and just weren't very successful. And so anytime we had a good lesson or felt good about something, we celebrated. I remember, we celebrate. We'd have a good teaching lesson, get a new investigator we felt good about, and I'd call up Garrett and I'd be like, dude, we just had this sweet lesson we need to celebrate. And he'd be like, all right, pick me up at 10. And we'd pick him up and we'd drive to the store and buy like a chocolate cake. And we'd bake a cake and eat the whole freaking cake that night. And I've never eaten so many full cakes in my life. And that, like, I think we were there 3 months. At 3 months, like, anytime they'd call, like, dude, we just had a sweet lesson. Let's go get a cake. And
I'm amazed you didn't know the bakers by name by the point that you'd bought so many. You probably should have taught
Oh,
those people.
it was we seriously we probably ate 30 cakes. Like,
Oh my
and
god!
we got good at making cakes. But we got busted one night by the I think it was the zone leaders. The I think one of us had a great lesson, and our investigator was. I think they had an investigator that was progressing. They were teaching somebody really well, and they called me like, "Dude, we got to celebrate. We had this great night. We found 4 people. So and so's progressing." So after we all got back to the flat, we jumped in the car and drove and went and got cake. And it was probably a little late by the time we got back, and we pulled into the parking lot, and the zone leaders are sitting there in the car. And I don't remember who it was, and they laid into us, and I don't remember why they were there. I think someone in the apartment complained about loud music or something, and so they like busted in and were like, "Let me see all your CDs." And like, we didn't have a lot of we were just busting freaking gospel music. We were rocking out to church music, and we had a sweet stereo system. And so someone complained that it was loud, and the mission home got a call, and so the APs were coming to confiscate our illegal music or something. And I think that's what it was. And
Oh boy!
they happened to come the one night that we were celebrating with cake. And I'm like, we're about to make a cake. You guys want to come and have a cake? I'm like, no, get to bed.
Ow. That's too good.
That was rough. I remember just teaching a lot and never really finding anybody to progress and get going. And it was fun though. Lynch was a stud.
Are you still in contact with McKay?
I'm not. No.
He never.
There's only a few that I still keep in contact.
He never answers his phone from everybody who I've talked to that does have his phone number. So, McKay, come on the podcast and answer my phone calls.
Yeah, for real. Seriously. I can't say much. I dodged you for a little bit too. So
it's all good. We're sitting here right now.
Well, after I listened to so many, because I drive the truck all day long, so I'll just put them on and listen to quite a few. I'm like, yeah, I got to get on.
Love it.
Good. But from Motherwell, I went to Paisley with Chris Jones, and that was great. We had 3 months left, and we came out together and had a good time early in the mission, and kind of served around him, and we got along probably too well. We had a lot of fun. Our teaching pool is pretty small, but we did a lot with like members and trying to find referrals for members. And I remember President Vreens, we had really bad numbers one day, and President Vreens called us up and just lit into us. Like, I've never been like ripped apart like that before. And because our numbers were pretty low, and I was pissed. Like I'm pretty bullheaded. I don't like to be told when I'm wrong or doing something wrong. And President and I had a pretty open relationship. We talked about a lot of the stupid things I did, and he really laid into me that day, and I was mad. And it was one of those like, I'll just send you home. You've got 3 months left. I'll send you home. And Elder Jones was pretty apologetic and like, we'll be better. And I was like, forget that, like, bull crap. And I was mad, and I kind of hung up the phone. And I wrote President a letter, and I laid into him. He called me back like, it could have been like an hour after he got it. Like, he called me right up. And I was mad because he was like, your numbers are so bad, Elder Fischer, and you guys this, and I could send you home. And I basically said, President, like, I could make up numbers. Like, we're trying to find people. And like, I could force appointments, and I can force all these things. And, it wasn't about the numbers. And I'm like, President, you always tell me it's not about the numbers. And here you are ripping into me about numbers. Yeah, could we work harder? But I'm like, if I wanted to, I could have 20 new members and teach 60 lessons. But are they really going to go anywhere? So we did count them. And that's what I love President Breens, because we sat down but like we talked on the phone and just kind of had a heart to heart. He kind of apologized for laying into me so hard, and I kind of apologized for being an a-hole and being so bullheaded, and it was great. I love Prison Marines, but I've never been ripped apart like that in my life. But
That's cool.
we some great members there. We spent a lot of time with like the Burns. They fed us a lot. David and Sarah was a Catholic, and we, you know, it was like a lovingly arguing about, beliefs, and she would tell us what she believed, and we would say, yeah, that's what we believe. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what we believe. Let me show you where it's at in the Bible or the Book of Mormon. And she's like, that's not what you believe. This is what you believe. And she was great. We loved it. We loved going there, kind of visiting her. And I still keep in contact with her. Not as often. Probably I shoot an email once or twice a year and send her a Christmas card, and she'll respond back. And
that's cool.
Nice.
Loved that area. Wish I could have finished my mission there, but I think the Jones and I getting along too well kind of ended that. But funny story. I mean, we bought those stupid pellet guns. You know the pellet guns? We bought some just cheap pellet guns, and Jones and I would decide everything. We set up like a shooting ring in our main living room, and he was praying today, and we'd see who could shoot the target in the best spot or knock over the cans, and there were pellets everywhere. Like, I bet there were thousands of pellets on the floor. And we'd be knocking on doors, and I reached my pocket. I'm like, oh, I found a pellet in my pocket. And I couldn't figure out how they were getting in my suit coat pocket. And I found out that during church, Chris he'd sit next to me in church and lean back and pick all the pellets out of the bottom of his shoes. They were stuck in his tread of his shoes. And he'd lean back and he'd slip them in the pocket of my suit coat. Because I was always finding pellets in my coats and my pockets, and he was always putting them in there.
Oh man, that's fun.
We were throwing plates and trying to shoot clay pigeons with these things, and
oh gosh,
it decided everything. Who's praying? Who's doing this? Who's cooking? It was all decided by how good we were at the pellet guns. And then I spent 6 weeks there, and then from there I went to Dumfries. So I went all the way north, Thurso, and then I ended up all the way on the south end in Dumfries.
Wow.
And I was there for just my last 6 weeks, and that was a pretty rough 6 weeks. After my little heart-to-heart with President, like I said, all right, I'll be really good this next place. Like I'll rock it. And I served there with Elder Zacharias, Dan, and the two of us just didn't get along very well. And that, I think, a little bit of me being trunky and just him being the quirky self that he was. But that was rough. I remember calling President and just being like, and it wasn't President Reams anymore. It was President Fredericks.
Yeah.
And I just, President, I'm going to kill him. And he's like, Elder, you got 6 more weeks. Don't kill him. Like,
gosh.
And if it wasn't for, we had the senior couple, the Andersons there. We lived above them. And if it wasn't for those guys, I probably, Dan and I probably would have gone to punching each other, because we would just get on each other's nerves to the point where he'd scream at me and I'd scream at him. And we did our best. We worked hard, and just little things picked at us. But the Andersons were awesome. They'd, come down, come study with us, or because we'd be studying and screaming at each other, and they'd call, Elder Fischer, come down and study with us, or they'd bring Elder Zacharias down to study, or just to cool us down. And they fed us all the time, and they could tell when we were at each other's throats, and so they would drive us to some castle and let us sightsee for an hour. And
oh wow,
and Dan was a great guy. Just me going home and me being bullheaded again, wanting to do things my way. I've been there 2 years. I know what I'm doing, and he was pretty bullheaded the same, and it was great. I love Dumfries. I wish I could have spent longer there, but it was ready to go home. So
Yeah.
it was hard. I tried really hard to really finish strong, and that was a really rough 6 weeks. But that's where I ended.
So you only had a
really, really long areas and some really short ones.
Yeah.
and you only had a short time with the Fredericks, like a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, it was like 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Like it was the last little bit.
Yeah.
And my last president's interview, I asked President Breens to give me my exit interview because like I'm like, I don't know President Fredericks. Like, so I did an exit interview with President Breens, and
We've heard that from a couple people. Same deal. Any memories you talked about, talking to Sister Vrains before your mission, but what about during the mission?
I love Sister Breens. She was the best. She probably didn't love me because she always was getting at me for. I always liked to I hated wearing a suit and boring old stuff. I mean, I was always wearing stupid glasses or some blue sunglasses, or I had fake glasses that I wore that had no lenses on it, poke in the eye, or wearing some off-color tie or shoes or a suit. So Sister Breeze was always getting on me for, Elder Fischer, what suit is that? I had this brown suit. Like, I don't know. I would describe it like poo brown. Like, it is the most disgusting brown ever. It was like light brown. I think I traded a pair of shoes for it from Richard Midgley. But it was like 8 sizes too big. So I had to wear these pink suspenders to keep the pants up, the trousers up. And it was the ugliest suit I've ever seen, but I loved it. And Sister Brings hated it. And so I made it a point to like wear it to interviews or wear it to zone conferences so she could see it. And she'd, Elder Fischer, and she would just shake her head at me and just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you don't like my suit, Sister Brings? And she was always good fun. I mean, she always took it really well, and I loved her. She just, Elder Fischer, what's that tie you're wearing? Like, I had a tie that was like a giant fish, and she hated it. So I wore it any chance I got. Did you ever see that tie?
Yes.
It was amazing. I think I gave it to Phil. I hope he kept it.
Oh my gosh.
Because I hope he didn't leave. I didn't hope it didn't turn into like a flat fine, because that tie was amazing. But Sister Reeds hated it. She probably was mad if she saw anybody else wearing it that had stayed in the mission.
Oh yeah, I remember that tie. Goodness.
She was always just kind of lovely getting after me about things like that. I loved when we served with Brandon and he had a spiky hair. She'd always like come up and rub the spikes and like, oh, porcupine, and
Oh,
she was just the best. I love Sister Reeds. But
amen.
That's great. And then President Reigns, I have another funny story about President Reigns. And it just showed the kind of love and respect that I had for him. But it was after our mission, and I was at, I think, a mission reunion, and I had this really dirty, nasty mustache, like just like pedophile status. Like it was amazing. And my wife hated it, and she's like, she couldn't get me to shave it off my face. And she went to President Reigns, and she's like, President, what can you do about this? Like, it is nasty. She's like, I've been begging him to shave. And President Reigns walked up to me, puts his big hand on my shoulder. And he's like, Elder? And I look up at him, and he's like, shave that crap off your face. And I got home, it was a mission, the mission reunion, so it was late. We were living up in Richmond, and I got home late that night, and the first thing I did is went to the bathroom and shaved off my face. And my wife was like, that's all it took? Like, that was it? And I was like, that's, the respect I had for President Reigns, like, when he said something, you did it. And so when he was like, shave that crap off your face, I'm like, all right, President, it's probably time.
Oh man.
But I mean, it just shows the love and respect that like myself and even other missionaries, like I'm sure any of the other missionaries would have done the same thing. Like when President, speaks, you do.
Yeah.
It's great.
Agreed. Matt, did you have any experiences with the transition in the mission to preach my gospel that you remember?
Not a lot. I think if I remember correctly, when I was in the NTC, we had printed copies of Preach My Gospel, pages and lessons, and then when we got in, we actually got the book. But I remember I think I remember we were taught a little bit of the Purple Dragon, but for the most part, we were taught the new Preach My Gospel stuff.
Okay.
But I remember when I first got into the mission, and this put me off probably a little bit too from like the mission leadership. But when I first got on the mission, they were hounding like memorization. Like, you've got to memorize these scriptures. You've got to do this. You've got to memorize the discussions. And I had memorized them, but me being stubborn, one of the zone leaders said something to me like, if you don't pass this off, you can't teach. And I was like, oh crap, like, I've got it memorized. I'll still teach. I don't need to pass it off. And he was like, yeah, you will not have the Spirit if you don't pass these off. And so true fashion, I kind of flipped him the bird and was like, I'm not going to pass this off. And so like, Jack probably remembers, you had the scripture mastery and the things I wanted you to memorize. And I got hounded my whole mission to memorize things, and I memorized it. I just was so stubborn that I wouldn't pass it off. It was really stupid of me. I was probably a pain in the butt to some of the district leaders for that, because they were like, you need to get your new elder certified. And I was like, I'm not passing that off. I'll memorize it, but forget you guys. I was kind of probably a little bit of a butt, but
You just knew the scriptures.
Yeah, I mean,
open your mouth and it will be filled with the things that you need to say, right?
I mean, I had it memorized and I would have passed them off, but I don't remember who it was. But they were like, you cannot teach if you don't pass it off. And I'm like, forget that. I'm not going to pass that off.
I'll show you.
Yeah. What did I know? I was a dumb, freaking stupid kid. And I'm still that way a little bit. Don't like to be told what to do.
Aren't we all?
It's all good. Just perfectly you, Matt. That's it.
That's me to a T. Probably do a fault sometimes, but I am who I am, and sometimes that gets me in trouble.
Is there anyone else you served around, besides your companions or whatever, that you want to shout out around here?
I got to think who was on. I mean, I was around a lot of missionaries. There's a lot of missionaries I remember, a lot of people that I really got along with, because like, I was pretty social. I'd call people like Moon's Night. I had everybody's phone numbers memorized. I knew all the gospel of the mission. I'd call it. I broke every mission rule on Moon's Night. I called everybody and wanted to know what's going on and share the gossip. But like, I'm trying to think of people who haven't been on. But like freaking Richard Mitchley, love that guy. I know McLeod's been on. Conway's been on. Old Conweasel. Freaking, yep. You'll get a kick out of this, Jack, or not Jack, Zach. I was going through my T-book, and I was listening to the podcast a little bit ago. Someone was talking about cornflakes, and you busted up laughing. I have a whole entry from Conway about cornflakes. Like, it's got pictures of girls that he's cut out of magazines, and he's like, which one is the better looking one? And if you pick it on he has like an answer sheet on the back. Like, if you pick this one, you have cornflakes. If you pick this one, you have cornflakes.
Oh my God.
As I was going through that, I'm like, this is great. Like, I wonder if I can find the page real quick. I'll just show you. I'll hold it up to the camera. Because it was amazing. Like, here you go. This is Conway's thing. Share corn or no corn. And it goes on, he's got all these, which one's the hot one? Like, so I'm thinking, I don't remember whose it was I was listening to. They were laughing about that. I'm like, oh, Zach will get a laugh out of this. Oh, Conway.
The funniest part about T-books is I didn't do a T-book because I was just like, I don't want to have to track that thing down. And I'm amazed at those who still have them, because some of them got parceled all over the country. But the funny thing that I was thinking about recently is there were so many things that we wrote in people's T-books that we probably never will remember what we wrote. And this is great that you're sharing that because Dan will see it and he will probably laugh his head off.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I was in contact with Craig Bettridge, Con Bettridge. Just, he friended me on Instagram and we've been chatting. And I'm like, dude, I just went through my T-book and dude, yours was legend. Like the things you wrote, I've got this birthday card of Michael Jackson. And when you open it up, it's got the white glove and it goes like, I'm like, why would you put a musical card on my feet? It's amazing. But like I opened it up and it worked once. Like the battery was holding enough charge to do a little Michael Jackson thing at me. And
oh my gosh.
But there's some really funny memories in there. But like, yeah, back to missionaries. I mean, all my companions, I'd love to hear from Cameron McDonald. Midgley. I was around. Have you guys heard Jeremy West?
Yeah, he's been on.
Has he been on? I must have missed that one.
Yeah, he was like in I think the 30s episodes.
I'll have to go back and look.
It was a good one.
Let's see. Cook, you got to get Cook. Old Charlie Cook on here.
We had him scheduled at one point, and then he had to cancel, and we have not been able to get back in touch with him. So,
Cook,
keep trying. Get
on here, man. We got some funny stories, and you've got a lot to share. Yeah, I mean, I gotta think. When you get put on the spot, it's hard to think.
Yeah.
This week I could have listed 50 people, but
it's all good.
That's the way it goes. Well, anybody you are in contact with, send them our way. 51spylaw.com. People can remember that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I don't think anybody will forget that.
Yep.
No. We can assure you that we'll continue to track people down. And I mean, tell Craig. I messaged him because Craig was in my group in the MTC that I'd love to have him come on the podcast and catch up with him. It'd be fun. But yeah. Anybody that you get in touch with, send them our way. We'd love to have them.
I will. Well, I got two more that I was just thinking of. Simon Drew, you got to get him on here.
Oh yeah,
yeah, we do.
We have some pretty funny stories, and Jason Howard, old Tim.
We
got to get Tim on here.
I gotta track him down.
I've got a funny story with Drew and Tim when we were up in Thurso. The car needed some service, and so they gave us a rental car. And Drew and Howard and I think it was Borders and I took this rental car with unlimited miles and just poured. Like they drove up and we poured everything north on this rental car. And it was so fast and so nice. It was amazing. Like who gives missionaries a rental car for real and like gives them unlimited miles? They just wanted the gas the same as when we picked it up.
So did you drive to the Isle of Skye and back?
Not quite, no, but we covered some serious ground. I think they were in Invergordon at the time, and we have some really funny pictures all over the place, and it's like really nice, like Port Arthur that was super, like it was fast.
Oh man,
and it was a nice car, and we put some miles on it.
That's amazing.
But you got to get those two on. I loved him. Like he was another one of those guys, just really quiet, but just when you got him going, he was so funny.
Amen.
He was a riot.
Amen. Yeah. I couldn't call him Tim. I had a hard time with that because I remember when I was a new missionary, I was at a zone meeting, and Simon Drew was like, "Hey Tim," and I was like, "Who is he talking to?" And then Jason responds, and I'm like, I don't quite understand this until I started to understand soccer and Tim Howard, and I was like, okay, but that's not his real name. It threw me for the biggest loop as a new missionary. So I couldn't call him that. I always called him Elder Howard. So, but so many people called him Tim.
Good old Tim. And I was, I'm terrible with names, and so I use nicknames to help me remember names. And so a lot of people got nicknames, and the Tim stuck. Phil stuck. The Nobulator, Charles in Charge.
All good ones.
Well, I mean, I could name a million names. Old Con Weasel.
Weasel.
Old Huey Bear.
That's right.
I mean, that's how
Razzle Dazzle.
Yeah, that's how I, helped me remember names. And so if you got a nickname, that means I probably couldn't remember your name for a while. I'm sorry.
So
I apologize to anybody, but
I find it endearing.
yeah, and I only give you a name if I like you, because then I want to remember your name.
That's right.
If you didn't get a nickname, then I probably didn't care to remember your name. I'm sorry.
All good.
I'm sorry, Jack. I don't have a nickname for you.
That's all right.
I'll think of a good one for you. I'll let you know.
We actually didn't serve like with each other ever, but I followed you into areas, you followed me into areas.
I was going to say we were around a little bit, but not like at the same time.
Yeah.
It's
not enough to get a nickname.
Yeah, not enough to get a nickname. There are a lot of people that you serve around a lot and you don't ever hear much from. But yeah, anybody in my MTC group, I'd love to hear from any of those guys.
I was just looking through it, and we've hit quite a few of your group. I was really impressed with us. So there's only a few on there that we need to get in touch with. So we'll keep working on it.
Good.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for coming on the podcast. And
thank you. I hope I didn't embarrass myself too much.
I think not at all.
No way.
Yeah.
But hopefully my wife doesn't listen back to this and be like, what were you talking about? Are you kidding me? But
it sounds like your wife is going to.
Oh, she will. She puts up with a lot from me.
Man, I love it.
Well, thank you guys for doing this. This is great. I love listening to it. I love catching up with seeing where other missionaries are at and how life's going. And, I wish all the ones that are thinking about it, come get on.
Yep.
We don't care what life brings. We just want to see how you're doing and catch up. It's great. Yep. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. You couldn't have said it better. This isn't about who we were at some point in our life. It's just us. I mean, Matt, we haven't talked in 7-8 years since Utah State. It's like riding a bike. So
yeah, it is. It's like we just saw each other yesterday.
Yeah, I love it.
It's great. So,
Matt, we just want to express how much we love you. Thank you for being one of our brothers in Scotland, and you brought so much to all of our experiences. So just thank you again for just being who you are.
No problem. Thank you guys. This has been great.
All right, brother. We'll say goodnight to you then. Cheerio.
Yeah. So yeah, love you guys.
All right, love you too, brother.
Yeah.
Peace.
Bye.